Welcome to our next edition of the Foundation Speaker Series. My name is Karen Musanti. Today, I am very excited and pleased to have with me Beth Hendler-Grunt. Beth is the founder and president of Next Great Step. The sole focus of her organization is to guide students and recent grads to help them achieve career success. She has helped hundreds of college students and graduates launch their careers. As they say, networking is key. I became aware of Beth and her company while working with a volunteer of our organization. He and Beth were on a webinar together, and when I heard what she was doing and the information she was sharing, I knew we needed to have her as part of this speaker series. She has quite a resume of appearances, as she has been featured in the New York Times, CNBC, ZipRecruiter, New Jersey Biz, and many other media outlets. Her clients have landed jobs at Amazon, Yelp, JP Morgan, and Major League Baseball, just to name a few. I'm really honored and excited for you to hear just a bit about how Beth helps students find their path. Welcome to our speaker series, Beth.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, both of our organizations are in the business of helping young people, obviously. As they say, your future starts now. So I'm going to actually turn it over to you and let you provide our viewers with just a few tips.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I want to talk to everyone today with some of those big questions that young people are always thinking about of, what do I do with my life? Where do I go from here? How do I take my next great step? And share with you some of the beginning process of how someone, if you're in high school or college and trying to figure out where do you go and how do you figure it out, some of those tips and maybe some guidelines to help you start that path, because it can feel very overwhelming. It could feel like everyone else has it figured out and you're wondering, how do I figure this out for myself? So I want to first assure you that that is very normal and most people do not have it figured out, but want to give you some tips on how to feel comfortable and start giving you a framework to think about it. And that's what we do at Next Great Step in terms of guiding young people to figure out their path and then feel really confident on how to land the job that they deserve. So my focus is on what should you do with your life and how do you get there? So the first thing we think about is, well, how do you figure out your path? And I always ask someone, well, where do you want to be in the future? You might not know the answer and that's okay. But one of the best ways to start is understanding, well, where are you now? Where are you in your life in terms of your age, what grade, or what you're looking to? What do you enjoy? What are the things in your life that are fulfilling? And how do you get from where you are now to where you want to go with confidence? And as I say, without fear. So you feel that as you move through the process, you know what you're doing, or you feel good about what you're saying, or at least you're testing things out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You may not like what you see, and that's actually a good learning process. But how do you move through the process with confidence? And here is kind of some guidelines of how to think about that. One of the first things that when I engage with young adults is to do this concept that I call the force field. And it sounds very sci-fi, but it's really actually a great way to do a self-assessment, a self-inventory of who are you and what are those driving and restraining forces. So you'll see even on the slide, at the left side, the farthest most line on the left, that's really what I'd call like at 0%, where things just don't feel like they're going the way you want. At the line on the far right, that's optimal. Everything's exactly the way you want. That's utopia. But the truth is most people are somewhere in the middle. And there are these forces that push on you in terms of moving forward. So driving forces are those things that are all those things internal and external that have enabled you to achieve success up until this point. It could be your education, your family, being a part of a team, volunteering, work experience, just skills that you've acquired. These are all the things that make you so fantastic. And that's what pushes you towards the direction that you want. And then there are these things called restraining forces. And those can be real or those can be perceived, where you feel that maybe these things are holding you back. Maybe you feel like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not skilled enough. These are the things in our head that tend to stop us from moving forward. And to give you an example, these are some of the things that other young people have told me that they are able to do well because of their, parental support, or they're creative, or they've taken on leadership roles. But when it comes to restraining, their fear of failing, fear of the unknown, or you feel like I'm nervous, or people are telling me what to do, but I'm not sure I want to do what they're directing me to. So taking that first self-assessment and that inventory of where you are is just a great start, because it's a snapshot in time. Just because you might have all of these restraining forces doesn't mean that they're going to be there tomorrow or next week. These are opportunities for you to work on these things. How do you feel more directed? How do you feel more confident? Maybe it's because you're going to start doing some research, or you're going to start talking to people. So I always like to encourage you to do this self-assessment, self-inventory before you even engage on the process of what do I do with my life? Because it starts to give you a picture of, wow, I do have all these great things going for me. And yeah, some of these things I'm concerned about, or they hold me back, but I know that there's a few that I can work on. So that's kind of the first piece in starting to figure out your path of where do you go from here. The next thing you think about is, well, who actually cares about what you do in the future? Now, clearly you care, but I want you to think about this concept. I call it stakeholders. Stakeholders are all of those people in your life who have a real interest in you being successful. Most of the time it's a parent or a guardian. It could be a teacher. It could be a relative. It could be a friend. But sometimes when people around us have expectations around our future, there could be this pressure. So if mom or dad, if dad was a doctor and he said, wow, you should really study biology and you should go to medical school because I think that's good for you. Does that meet up to what you feel? Are you interested in science? Are you interested in, biology and chemistry? Or do you feel that you're in a different direction? And it's important to just understand the people around you, the stakeholders around you, because that can weigh on how you think about what you should do with your future. It's not wrong. It's just observing and taking that in so you have a sense of, am I doing this because I want it, or am I doing it because someone else wants it? So always the idea of think about what is someone else's expectations. I had a student once whose mom was a PhD in engineering. And her expectation for him was that you're going to go to college, you're going to get your undergrad, and you're going to go get your PhD, which is a pretty significant endeavor. And he didn't feel it. He said, I don't feel that's something I need. I'm not interested in engineering. I want to be in, I actually want to be a nurse, or I want to be in a different direction. So, being able to have those conversations also with your family and friends and say, I'm thinking about something else, and hoping that they're going to support you in that. So just understanding who's around you. The next piece in figuring out your path is this vision. What is it? If you had the chance to think really big with no limitations, so it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter where you go to school, nothing matters. If you just had the chance to think really big, what would it feel like to be doing what you want? What kind of skills would you be using on a daily basis? And, it can ask all kinds of questions. If you want to be in the corporate sector, would it be a big company or small? Do you want to feel like you're in a nonprofit? Do you want to feel that you're in a different fields? Do you want to work in a team or as an individual? Asking yourself these questions allows you, without any restrictions, really it starts to allow you to say, these are the things that I aspire to. Now, are all of them within reach? I mean, potentially yes, but you have to also think about the reality. If I want to be a European soccer coach, maybe I don't live in Europe, maybe I don't play soccer. So you want to also see, well, if I needed to get to a certain place, what skills do I need? I had a young woman once who said, I want to be a travel writer for a major magazine. I said, that's great. I said, have you traveled? No, I haven't traveled anywhere. I said, have you written anything? No, I haven't written anything. But in that same token, you can go to a local, restaurant and start writing reviews, or you can start writing copy. So there's ways that you can build the skill set that you need to help accomplish your vision. So giving you the chance to think, where do I want to go? If I had anything available to me, what is it that I'd want to be doing? And then to break down that vision, you set goals. And what you do is you want to see how do I break it down in a step-by-step process so I kind of make it easier to go after. So what would it feel like to be successful? If I met you on the street a few years from now, when you're doing what you want to, how would you describe it to me? Do you define success by how much money you make? Or do you define it by being excited to get up and go into work every day, or being able to work with people that stimulate you and help generate ideas? And it's also a chance for you to say, what do I like doing? Maybe I really like volunteering, or I like to work with people one-on-one, or I really like to write, or I like to do research. And maybe also understanding what you don't like is just as important. So knowing to say, maybe math isn't my thing, or I don't see myself going into accounting, or I'm not great at sales, or I'm uncomfortable with that. So maybe that's not the area that I'm going to focus on. And that helps you make decisions too. So knowing what you like and what you don't like, start to help narrow it down. And that's really the goal. How do you start to narrow in on thinking about what is it that I can do? And one of the main ways to help you along this path is to set some specific goals. Goals such as, I'm going to speak with 5 people who are in a job that's interesting to me. Maybe it's a family member, a friend, or a teacher, or someone that's doing something that can tell you firsthand. Because as much as going online and looking on the internet, you can only learn so much. The best way to learn about how people are doing potential roles and jobs is by talking to them. The other way is you have to reading outside of the classroom, reading trade journals. So if you said, I really want to get into the music industry, great. You need to read a trade journal or type of online magazine that focuses solely on the music industry. Maybe there's a lot of changes now, or based on even what's happening during this pandemic, of how businesses are changing. So you've got to get smart about what's happening. It also gives you ideas of companies you never heard of, or people that you've never thought about. So you have to read and continue to educate yourself and learn. So just keeping yourself sharp starts to help you formulate your direction a little bit better. And then the other piece, so once you start to have this vision, you have goals, but the other piece that you have to start to really zero in on is understanding your own skills. Because what's going to happen is, if you reach out to people, which you should, you're going to have conversations. And what a lot of young people tell me is that they don't know what to say in the conversation. Should you just ask a lot of questions? Should you ask if you can be an intern? Should you just, ask them about their job? If you want to have a really great conversation with someone that potentially could lead to a job opportunity, it's not just asking great questions. You have to have a clear story about yourself. What do you want that person to know about you by the time you finish the conversation? And also, getting clarity on your skills helps give you better direction about what type of opportunities you should focus on, or what you should do. So you should think about, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? And people have told me I'm good at. Maybe you're great at leadership, that you've taken on leadership roles in a sports team. Maybe you're a great writer, or you've written for the school newspaper. Maybe you're just really passionate about coding, or learning how to build a video game or an app. Think about all of the things that you have. So kind of taking that original driving forces, and now we're going to kind of narrow it down even more. What are the skills that you really are the most competent and you enjoy doing? And in order to say you have a skill, you have to have had an experience where you've done it. So really think through of, what have I done that backs it up? So if I say I have leadership, maybe it showed that I was the captain of the lacrosse team, or I was the leader in a group project. So think about those experiences. And then what you do next is you think about, what if I can narrow it down to the top 3. What are your top 3? We call those your core skills. The top 3 skills that would define you the most. And the reason why it's helpful to come down to 3 core skills is that when you meet people or talk to them, people can't remember much more than 3 things. So you want to tell someone, hi, I'm a recent grad and I'm going to be studying this in school, and I have really strong skills in the areas of research, writing, and my ability to communicate. And it's based on things that you've done in the past. So think about what you've done and your experiences. But the more you can narrow it down to the top 3, it makes it easier, 1, to talk about, and 2, for people to remember you in a way that you have real clarity about what your value is. And the other thing I want to share is sometimes there's this idea about skills, and there's hard skills and there's soft skills. Hard skills are those things that usually they're quantitative. You can measure it, or there's a way that you've proven that you've done it. A soft skill is saying, I'm hardworking, I'm reliable, I'm trustworthy. And those are great. Those are excellent things. But if you really want to be remembered and differentiate yourself, you want to make sure that you know what your hard skills are. So I give you an example here of some of the things that show what the hard skills are. So it could be you're great at analyzing information, or maybe you're great at creating social media posts or graphic design. So just to give you some ideas, so sometimes people say, well, I don't have any skills, or I'm not sure what skills to think of. So wanted to give you a list of ideas. It is not complete. It is just giving you an idea of some of the things that you might have that you don't even realize it. And then the next piece is to get started. Again, one of the ways to start understanding what's out there is you have to talk to people. So you're going to think about your skills. You're going to think about the story you have that defines it. So if you say one of your skills is research, you can talk about a class project where you had to research material, you had to interview people, you had to look things up, maybe you had to analyze or synthesize data. You're going to explain how you did that and how you were able to produce a result as a result of that skill. Then once you kind of get clarity on that, you want to target the people who have a job that you would want. Maybe you don't know how to get there yet, but you want to talk to people who are in the field or doing something that's interesting to you, and target companies that are interesting. And I have here a note about 10 and 10. Pick 10 people and 10 companies. And that's who you want to start with. And ideally, you want to try to reach out to these 10 people, whether you're using LinkedIn as a tool, you can Google them, it could be a family friend. But the ultimate way and the best way to understand whether a path is interesting to you and something that you really want to pursue is by having a good conversation with a person directly. That's what networking is called, to understand what they're about, understand and sharing the skills that you have, and then seeing if there's a way that they could introduce you to someone else, or potentially expand your network, or advise on how to get a certification, or what other education you might need in order to be successful in that field. So the process is not, doesn't have to be so difficult, but there's a piece where you have to invest some time and effort to talk to people, as opposed to throwing up your hand saying, I don't know what to do with my life and I'm not sure. There are resources right in front of you, whether it's information about jobs or businesses, but it's the people that you talk to that will give you the best result of getting information on how to be successful and understand where to go in your path. So that's just kind of a little overview on how to get started and how to get ready on your way.
Wow, Beth, that's great. It's important for our viewers, I guess, to understand that the information you just provided is not just good for high school students or college students. It's really for adults or anybody who's looking to make a career change or just go towards their passion in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that it's okay to make mistakes. And I'd say, especially being a young person, this is the time to take risks. Right. This is when you have the most opportunity to take risks. Maybe you don't have a mortgage or a family yet, and you can try things out. And that's okay if you try it and you don't like it. That's actually a great thing if you tried it and you didn't like it. So take some risks, try, and that's how you'll get better clarity on how to move forward.
Wow. Beth, thank you. Thank you. I know how busy you are these days. I know your schedule is very crazy. So we appreciate you taking the time out to be with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. If anybody would like to contact Beth at her company, Next Great Step, her contact information will follow this video. Please feel free to connect with her with any questions or thoughts you may have. I know she would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.